George the Tech.
Hey, everybody. We are covering a lot. Here we go. We're going to be comparing recording techniques, the good old classic clicker method, and, oh, where's my clicker? There it is. And the versus punch and roll. And there's two ways of doing punch and roll, essentially. We'll talk about that. Noise floor, nobody asked about this, but I think everybody really needs to know what I believe is really, truly the absolutely correct way to measure noise floor. So I will go over that. Markers. Everybody wants to know about markers and why they're useful and what to do with them. We'll go deep into the markers world. Detect silences. Does it work well enough? Is it annoying? Is it useful? We'll go into it. Digging into the effects menu, we're going to go right down top to bottom and just do a very quick overview of what you find in the effects menu. I'll try to touch on some new premium features. These are features that have to be paid for to access. I may even have to pay for them to show them to you today. I can't recall right now if I have an active license, but it doesn't matter. If I have to pay for it to show you, that's all the better, because then you can see how that works. And those features include speech recognition and video editing. Moving on, we'll be talking about what's missing from TwistedWave. What are the basics that it doesn't include yet? Those include things like de-essers, declickers, and really more sophisticated noise reduction tools. And I'll show you some of my favorites, and some of them are a lot cheaper than you might think. Spot fixing versus global processing. So when should you fix something individually versus applying a plugin to the whole thing in one shot? Working with markers, yeah, we know. That's redundant, obviously. Building stacks. We'll go step by step as to what typically would go into a stack that I would use. And then the next level of automating beyond stacks is batch processing. And we'll talk about batches and what can go into a batch, what it can really save time doing for you. And then we'll head on into the mastering side of things. What are we doing when we're mastering? What are we listening for? How do I know when it sounds right? Are there specific specifications we're trying to achieve? Are stacks used and why? And then some other tools you can use in mastering to speed up the production of files that you're going to be sending out. Now, I call it mastering. It just means processing a file before sending it. That's essentially what the mastering is referring to. It's the last processing before the file gets sent on to the end user, the listener. And we'll also talk a little bit briefly about mastering for audiobooks. I am going to do a specific audiobook webinar for TwistedWave eventually, but so I won't dwindle. Is that the word? I won't be hanging around on this one for too long, but we'll go over what the specs are to look for when mastering for audiobooks, and then more questions as they come up from you guys. So that's the plan today. All right. So let's get directly into a demonstration of some of these recording techniques that I mentioned I was going to review. So let's go ahead and pop open TwistedWave. It recovered from a crash. How handy. How often do you see that? I honestly have been seeing it a little more often on my current Mac because, I don't know why yet. I've had my Mac crash on me over the weekend. I tend to leave it running. And then on the weekend, I come back on Monday and it says your computer was shut down due to a problem. Mystery. So TwistedWave, if it's been open at that time, the next time you open it, it will say, hey, you just recovered from a crash. And then you go, what? And if there were any files to recover, it recovers them, and it does it very, very well. I've never lost something as a result of the computer shutting down or something else. It's pretty darn awesome. Okay, so let's check our audio inputs. Always start by checking your audio inputs in TwistedWave before hitting record. Make sure it's set to the input you want to use. And output is good to check too, because when you hit play, you want it to come out the right place, right? TwistedWave actually will now remember what that setting was. So the next time you launch TwistedWave, if the setting you used prior isn't the one that's selected, or more importantly, if the hardware is not connected, TwistedWave will remind you, hey, last time you used your Scarlett or your Revelator, and it's not there now. So rather than just recording with the built-in mic and just ignoring the fact that you have no device, it will warn you now, which is really, really nice. I don't know when that feature was added, but I think it's a welcome feature. And I actually did ask Thomas several years ago if that would be something he could add. So glad that he did. All right, so let's do some recording here. Now, levels wise, I am going through some processing right now. Let's turn off that processing. And now you can hear my room tone, and you'll notice it's not perfectly quiet. I actually have a small fan next to me on my right. It's not that loud, but it has this one annoying tone. It's like, doo, somewhere in there. It's there. So maybe we'll even use that as a lesson to show how to remove that easily. That's actually kind of a happy accident, I think. Anyway, so we're recording along, and let's compare. You know, you're probably familiar already with the clicker method, and if you don't know what that is, very quickly, it's recording your script, and then when you find you've made a mistake, taking a beat, and then picking back up at the beginning of the phrase prior and continuing on recording. That is the clicker technique, and why I like the clicker technique is it doesn't require you have the computer in front of you to voice over. So you can have a very uncluttered booth. You can have all the equipment away from you, and you can have that feeling of being in narrator or actor mode and not be staring at the computer, making sure it's always running or doing things like punch and roll. So if that appeals to you, if you don't want to have the computer right in front of you, if you don't want to have something else to think about, then the clicker method is nice, because then all you need is a dog clicker trainer thing. And that's all you need. You could even mouth click. You could click your tongue, whatever. And now you have this extremely distinct point where you can make an edit. All right, most of you already know this one, I'm sure. The thing that people are more interested in learning about really is punch and roll. So how does this work? You have to go into preferences for TwistedWave and make sure the punch and roll settings are set correctly first. So we're going to go under editing. And it should go without saying, but you know, this is an advanced class, so I'm going to assume you've taken my beginner class, or you've been using this for a really long time and you are very familiar with what you're going to find in the preferences area. So if we go into editing, we're going to look for the recording section, and we're going to look for the pre-roll duration. So there's two functions that affect the way the punch-in system is going to work. One of them is pre-roll, and one of them is insert mode, okay? And that's what we're going to review right now. So pre-roll is how much time until the recording head engages. And this is the way punching in music used to work. If you wanted to fix something on the recording and you need to replace a flub in the guitar solo or something, or the singer wants to do another take without using another track, the engineer rolls the tape back a few seconds, hits play, and then at the moment when the singer wants to record, we'll punch the record button and the machine goes from play to record. That's what TwistedWave does, but it's completely automated. You don't have to mess around. You only have to set the pre-roll to the duration that you want. So let's show you how that works. So pre-roll means we're going to listen to 3 seconds of the point prior to the playhead punch-in point, okay? So where you actually place this yellow cursor is critical, right? This is the point where TwistedWave will switch from being a playback to record, okay? And to actually engage punch and roll record mode, you have to go into audio and you have to choose a specific record mode called punch in recording. Now, I find that the default keyboard shortcut for punch in recording is too many keys to have to press every time you want to do a punch in. It's really annoying, right? So I've changed that keyboard shortcut to P, okay? And it should be a review for most of you, but if you don't know how to do that, you go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. While this menu item window is open, you browse to the thing you want to edit, click on the thing you want to edit, and hit the key command.